What is up, everybody? My name is Bright Life. This is my fancy shirt, and today I want to welcome you to a brand new series called 10-Hour Reviews, where I spend 10 hours of my time playing one of your favorite MMORPGs to let you know if it's really worth your time. I play the game for 10 hours, then I give you a recommendation based on whether you should avoid this game, whether you should play it when it's free, maybe subscribe, or call into work sick because you should be no-lifing this game right now. We'll give it a rating based on a scale of 1 to 5, and then we'll kind of consider 4 different categories, which is gameplay, end game, community outlook, and systems and mechanics within the game. I'm excited to start with Star Wars: The Republic, one of my favorite of all time MMORPGs, so let's jump into this thing. Alright, Star Wars: The Old Republic is an MMORPG based in the Star Wars universe. It was developed by BioWare and takes place in the Star Wars universe shortly after the establishment of a tenuous peace between the re-emergent Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic. The game features 8 different classes, and each of the 8 classes has 3-act storylines that progress as the character levels up. Players join either the Republic or the Sith, but players may possess a morality at any point along the dark and light spectrum. Different classes favor different styles of gameplay, and the game features extensive customization options, fully voiced dialogue, companion characters, and dialogue options similar to BioWare's other role-playing games. And this game really does have BioWare written all over it, and so I want to walk you through my journey with SWTOR over the first 10 hours, talk about the storytelling prowess and some of the combat flaws, and then we'll give it that score and we'll walk through those 4 categories as well. So I started this playthrough on Tython as a Jedi Knight that I tried to get to look as much like Obi-Wan as possible. Don't know if I was very successful, but I tried. And I played it on stream just to get a general feel of the game. And my general feel from that very first stream was as follows. 1, this game has just phenomenal storytelling. In fact, it's amazing to just sit down and go, wow, did they really spend this much time and this much development on a story for an MMORPG? I mean, they really have the best storytelling, in my opinion, of any MMO. And that, yes, includes Final Fantasy XIV. I know, don't come at me, but that's my thought. It really is that good. The story is phenomenal. The different pathing options that you can do within the cutscenes are incredible. And how is this even in an MMORPG? It's an ambitious project to say the least. The second thing I noticed from the first stream is this is a really well-populated game. There were always people playing around me. It was nice to see the amount of people that were there. And again, that's what you really want in an MMORPG. You want to be able to play with others, and so that's really cool. The third thing that I noticed from my initial just overview playthrough is I really don't love the UI in this game. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the thin health bars and the thin little experience bars, but this just feels really dated. I think the blue and black theme is okay, but it's really, the UI feels a little too cluttered, but at the same time, not enough. I don't really know how to define it, but it just doesn't look that good. I even think that games with smaller budgets like Lord of the Rings Online has a better looking UI system than this does, and it's really unfortunate because this is a great game and you're going to be looking at the UI all the time. The fourth thing that I noticed that was really interesting was I did do a quick dungeon or flashpoint run in this game, and flashpoints are made up of 4 characters put together in a dungeon finder system. And while dungeon finder worked really well, the thing that I was kind of disappointed by after coming back to this game after so many years was that it no longer requires the traditional MMO makeup for the dungeon finder. You can go into a dungeon and it can group you up with 3 other DPS if you're already a DPS player, or you can have 2 tanks and 2 DPS and no healers. I don't really love that because the thing that appeals to me about dungeon playing in MMORPGs is the idea of getting together with 3 to 5 random strangers and you all doing your job and accomplishing a task. And in this one, you don't really need the healer anymore. You don't really need the tank because the bosses don't do enough damage, and then you can heal yourself with little things that you find on the ground. Just don't really love that system, and it seems like SWTOR is populated enough to actually have people play this, but hey, that's just one thing that I noticed. But then I logged off stream and I put it down for just a little bit, and I came back to it later, and I took out my notebook and I started just writing down everything that I experienced. And so we're starting on Coruscant, and we're gonna move our way through the story for the next couple hours of my playthrough in this one. And so first of all, as soon as I log in on screen, I am at the Galactic Republic's headquarters area, and man, there's just so much on screen. There's just immediate pop-ups. Your character is like taking up only like 60% of the screen. Everything else else's pop-ups and things that you have to click out of, and it doesn't feel very great. That's not a great start, and I know what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't feel great. I think for a lower level player, you should just leave it off, and then maybe as someone gets to level 30 you can do a little subscription pop-up, but it's just too much right off the top. But because it tells me to subscribe, I do want to find out what the subscriptions offer, and I click onto this window and I don't know what it offers. This is one of my bigger pet peeves with some of the smaller MMOs out there, but it seems like they have this habit of saying, hey, pay us 15 bucks a month, but we're just going to use really vague terms of what you get. So it just says more gameplay, more experiences, more something. Even see, now I've forgotten, even though I was just looking at the page, and it doesn't actually give me what I actually get. From knowing SWTOR, I know that you get a great experience boost. You can actually play through just the story alone and get to max level, which is a huge selling point that they completely miss on this webpage, which again, I think is a big bummer because I think they'd make a lot more money if they made it a little bit more clear what you actually get for subscribing in this space. And then the third thing that I noticed right away is that I have this little flashing ship icon that when I click on it, it doesn't give me a ship because I don't have a ship, but the flashing icon does not go away. And as someone with a little bit of ADD, that's devastating for my gameplay. I was very distracted by that, but let's move away from the negative and let's talk about the companions. I have T7 as my first companion, and I love this little droid. He's the freaking best, and don't you dare try to take him from me. T7 has my heart. The companion in this game, if you look, can actually do 3 different roles, and they do them all very well. You can have your companion tank, you can have them DPS, or you can have them heal you, which I think is really cool. It makes you feel like they really have a lot to offer your gameplay experience in the combat realm, which again is really cool. Each companion has their own storyline as well, based on your companion affinity, which is really cool. Again, very BioWare, very good attention to detail. Gives this game a sense of depth, which is really, really awesome. All right, so we fly over to Coruscant, and wow, this is a beautiful place. I mean, there's a little bit of lag in some of the ships around, and so it seems a little bit old, but the views in this place, they really went all out, which I think is really cool. As I'm running, I remember that if I press the Z key, I can pull out my lightsaber anytime, which as a true bona fide Star Wars nerd from the early 2000s and late 90s, let me tell you, that's all I want in a Star Wars game. So 10 out of 10 game. We'll see you guys in the next one. And then as we continue to run, I get a pop-up for an old system. And again, this game does suffer a little bit from old game bloat. And old game bloat happens in a lot of these older MMOs where, you know, an MMORPG will release an expansion with a new system. And for SWTOR, it's like Conquest Points or Galactic Starfighter or all of these different things. And then they don't ever take them away or minimize them in the new player experience. So the new player is just constantly hit with systems that they don't really need to be hit with because the game is trying to be really accessible, and I think that's kind of a bummer. But as we get to the Coruscant Tower, we find out that the Jedi have created some sort of EMP Death Star that can take down a whole planet's EMPs. People can't leave. It is called the Planet Prison, which is an awesome name. Also sounds like it's something that Rick and Morty would invent together, but Planet Prison it is. The Jedi get involved. They tell me that I'm supposed to chase after this guy that's definitely Greedo, even though they don't call him Greedo. Oh, and we meet a scientist, and I'm calling it now. This scientist is completely evil. There is no way he is good. Oh, and he goes and takes a rest. Okay, yeah, totally an evil scientist. There are no good scientists in video games. We learn very quickly that we should not jump off the ledges in Coruscant because there is fall damage. There is a first-person mode, and holy cow, you can have a jetpack. How do I get a jetpack? I have to pay for it with real money? Well, I'm about to make some unwise purchases. Now, T7 is still the best. I love him in combat, but I do have to say this about combat. It is a little bit recycled. The combat does feel a little bit like it's just not creative. The enemies don't path very much unless they are starred enemies, but also you get kind of the same packs of enemies, and combat is always like this. You jump into a pack of enemies, they yell at you, and then you easily take them down because they're very weak. Or, you know, if you go after a starred enemy, he yells at you, you take him down because your companion is healing you, and it's just kind of rote and routine. And I think this is probably my biggest criticism of SWTOR, is that the combat feels like part of the running to the next story. The stories are just so good, and the combat is just so mediocre and just tap target, and there's not really anything exciting about it, and it just kind of feels lame. And I hate to say that because I love SWTOR, but the combat feels as if it's part of the chore of running to the next story spot. And it continues to feel that way for me over time. And I know that combat is a big part of these games, so it's definitely something that you'll want to look at in your first 10 hours of playthrough to see if this is something that you can continue to sustain all the way to end game. Now, as someone who has played the end game, the raiding mechanics and the harder flashpoint mechanics with combat can be very fun, but I still think that of all of the largest MMOs, it's probably probably at the bottom as far as combat mechanics, and really as far as combat feeling creative and fun every time feels. But hey, we continue, we go find Greedo. I do love this touch with the door being broken with the lightsaber. I know that if you are a different kind of class like a commando, you'll break it with your gun, which is cool. It leads to that class fantasy, class experience. For some reason, there are 3 lightsaber sounds in this cutscene. It's a bold move by Greedo to try to fight a Jedi, and after I take my 3 lightsabers apparently and let Greedo go, we are greeted by the oh-so-familiar MMORPG general chat, where someone's calling someone else racist for not liking Twi'leks, which makes me feel like I'm right at home in this MMO. We learn about a group called the Black Sun Group, which is a very, very death metal sounding group. And then we learn more about the light side, dark side affinity points. And this is a really cool system in SWTOR where even if you're a Jedi, you can actually choose to go dark side by choosing the paths that the dark side symbol shows up to. Now, a really cool immersion thing is you can actually turn this off to where you don't know which one gives you dark side and light side points, which I would recommend you doing if you're really going for an RP mood, because you can kind of choose and it will automatically show you the next pathway, to where if you're always choosing dark side points, maybe you should just be on the dark side, which I think is really cool. Now, as I'm walking, I'm again struck by the idea that this music is phenomenal. I don't think I can play it on the video because I'm pretty sure it's licensed, but it is phenomenal music. You'll have to try it out for yourself just to see, because I mean, it's a John Williams replica, and sometimes it's just straight up John Williams music, and you can't go wrong with that. That, along with the vista views of this game, I mean, it really is beautiful. At least on Coruscant, they pulled out all the stops, and it makes you feel like you're in Star Wars, which is a really important point in this game. If you want to play just a random MMORPG that specializes in combat, you're probably going to go World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy. But if you want to be in Star Wars, in a galaxy far, far away, put on headphones and just play the game. It really is an immersive experience, which is a huge plus to their world building. Now back to the chat. The chat is making Catholic priest jokes, which is, again, nice. Makes me feel right at home in the MMO. And Kira gives us a call saying that she has cornered somebody and we have to go fight them. She is dodging while she's on this, which is quite impressive. Very good Jedi skills. And the convo options in this game do tend to range from very normal, like kind combat options, and the kindness option, of course, is always typically the light side, to just like, holy cow, you want the world to burn options. Like, you can be the meanest person in this game, which I guess is good if you want to roll a dark side person, but you can just be so mean that you'll probably feel a little bit bad being a Sith. And now the world chat is talking about something called Leku, and no cap, I don't know what that is at all. I'm not going to look it up on Google. Please don't tell me, and I hope it doesn't get me demonetized, but I guess we're back into general world chat where I'm learning new inappropriate things, I think. Again, amazing storytelling as we continue to go through this. I mean, the acting is actually really good. It makes you feel at one with the characters, and I don't think there's any other game that really makes me feel as good about the characters as this one. There's even a little bit of humor thrown in.
Are they open to the possibility of surrender?
Tried negotiating with the leader. He shot at me. Very rude.
Okay, and so we kill this bad guy. Now we need to go find the planet system. We're going to go visit some sort of big base somewhere, as you always do in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And we're going to go try to find the planet prison and shut it all down before they use it on Coruscant. A side note on this quest, apparently this is one of those very, like, all the spies are in one flash drive places where apparently all the rebel bases are on one computer that they've stolen. It's very much all your base now belong to us kind of a thing. It's very strange. I don't know why they do this in these intelligence communities, but they choose to, I suppose.
She's rough around the edges, but I like her.
She struggles with emotional attachments, as many young Jedi do. Be mindful of that.
Uh-oh, I can sense a romance incoming between me and Kira. And again, another cool immersive thing in this game is that you can flirt with characters on both sides of the aisle, and that's kind of cool. As we're running 2 quick little systems things, the quick travel is really nice, very efficient, only 5-minute cooldown, and you can travel to pretty much anywhere on the planet that you're on, which is very nice when you run all the way there. You don't have to run all the way back. It's a very quick travel system. And then the upgrade animations are really nice. If you get a new piece of gear that has a little upgrade thing, it'll have a little green arrow on it, which is very nice to have. Then I take a quick stroll through the cartel market, which is the in-game currency area, which again, I think it's fine. They have a lot of movie and show references. For instance, you can be very clearly Anakin in his Anakin robes. You can very clearly be the Mandalorian. You can be Revan, but I think that's a cool thing, and it really follows the fantasy of what a lot of people are trying to get into in this game. And again, I'm hit by this combat, and I have this thought that, this combat is so copy and paste that the legacy of the game, Knights of the Old Republic, does tend to hurt this game just a little bit. This game really is a great game, but when you follow and have the same name as KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, whose combat was really evolved for its time and actually really difficult at times, and you had to really be creative on when you used your med packs and when you did a flurry attack versus a critical strike, this combat system just feels very bland. It does not feel very involved. And so I do think that part of the reason why I'm so hard on the combat is because it's literally called the Old Republic, which Knights of the Republic just changed my life as a kid, made me fall in love with video games, and it's kind of a bummer in that space a little bit. Now next, as we go back to the Senate Tower, I do see a guild recruiting, which is always a good sign. Unfortunately, it's the guild dyslexic, and it's literally spelled the right way, which it shouldn't be for the joke. I mean, that was a huge missed opportunity there. Super nice views, lots of players, and here we find out that Tarnus is a Sith. He has the planet prison, and man, again, just masterful storytelling. Really great storytelling. They're gonna send me down to the Jedi Temple, which again is awesome, because if you love the lore of Star Wars, going to the Jedi Temple at any time is just a really, really cool thing. I do notice in this playthrough that in the taxi systems, there's a real missed opportunity to make this world feel vibrant and alive. You'll notice that when you take the taxis in SWTOR, that you're just basically flying from one point to like a tunneled path system to another, where what I do think is they could have made the views so much better. They could have developed these taxi pathway systems to really show off the fact that you're in Star Wars, that you're in this world. And what it feels like is like I'm running from one instance to the other instance, even though I'm on the same planet, because the taxi rides just aren't very impressive. And it would be cool to see them actually utilize this to show off some bigger vistas, maybe show off some landmarks. I think they could have spent a little bit more time on this, and it would have made the world building feel a lot. But anyway, we go down to the works, and I see what I totally remember as rat ghouls, and they do too. Do you guys remember going down, and I think it was KOTOR 2, and there were those awful rat ghouls? I was so scared of those as a kid, so I had some flashbacks. I had some flashbacks in this playthrough of the new rat ghouls kind of a thing. And it's nice that even though the works is in this awful, awful place, and the Jedi Temple is apparently completely destroyed and decimated, there's a taxi right to it, which is very convenient. The Empire versus Republic thing, it's a really cool thing. It's cool to see all the bad guys. Again, the storytelling is great, and we end up killing Tarnus, taking the planet prison, shutting it down, but his father and the other Sith Lords have all conspired to come kill us, which again is a really cool touch. We go find our ship where we're supposed to fly to the next planet, and I'm very much getting Ebon Hawk vibes, and here is where I just said it makes you feel like Star Wars. I did take a little break to play PvP just to try to give it a quick review, and it's pretty nice. I held my own, except when I got ganged up on by 4 people, which is how it should be. I played some sort of like elimination based game where if your whole team dies, then you're all out, or the other team gets a point rather, and it was really good. It was a good system, and I really, really enjoyed it. All right, so that was my 10 hours of gameplay, and overall, what a great time. Even though I've played this game through before in some other classes, the ability to have a brand new story really brought it to life, and it was a great story. And so I want to talk about the 4 little review elements that I bring in, which are gameplay, systems, community outlook, and then end game that I've researched, and then give you my score on this game. Now, the first one on gameplay, let's talk about the pros first. The story is phenomenal. If you had to give it a rating of 1 to 10, you would get an 11, and it should. It is fantastic. The music and the areas are really Star Warsian. They're great. Your ship feels like yours. It really does immerse you into the Star Wars world, which, when you're talking about an MMORPG, is exactly what you want. Now, the things that are a little bit lower for me on the gameplay area is, 1, the UI just is not my favorite. I don't love the UI in this game. I wish that there were some skins that could be made for the UI that would make it feel a little bit better. Unfortunately, it is what it is until they choose to upgrade that one. And then the combat really is the biggest gripe that I have on gameplay. It is a genuine bummer to see such copy-pasted combat in this one, especially when it bears the name Knights of the Old Republic, which revolutionized combat, in my opinion, in video games. The combat is unfortunately really boring. The attacks don't necessarily lead into one another. There's nothing super creative about the combat. And so while the story takes a shining 11, I would give the combat a 3 or a 4 at best. But still, overall, the gameplay is good enough to justify playing this game and play it for a long time because the story is just that good. Now let's talk about systems. The convenient systems that are there have been added to. You can now play as a Dark Jedi through the Jedi story, which is really cool. You can now play as a Sith Inquisitor through the Jedi story, which is cool. There's a lot of RP options available for you in that space, which I think is really rad. The fast travel is very quick. The companions are really fun. They're very enjoyable. I like that part of the system of this game. On another pro side, the PvP is phenomenal. Fantastic PvP. I know there are Twitch streamers that only PvP in this game. They get a lot of viewers. It's very engaging and really, really enjoyable. Great scene for PvP in this game. For the negatives, I think it can be a little bit muddy, the amount of systems that are in the game. There's a lot of reading to do. There's a lot of bloat in this game that they could have taken away, which is hard to do, I understand, as an MMORPG, but you know, sometimes I guess if it's a choice between a bloated game and then something like World of Warcraft, which takes away all of their borrowed power system but leaves a pretty clean game behind, I might actually take that one with World of Warcraft other than Star Wars, just because it feels like there's just so much there and it can be a little bit overwhelming. And it leads to the player feeling like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? The PvE on the negative side, the flashpoints really don't lead you to feel like you're playing a role. Instead, it just feels like a task to get done for experience. Where PvP feels really purposeful, the PvE dungeons don't really feel very purposeful in my opinion. All right, now community outlook. This game is very well populated. And when I was on Coruscant, there were over 100 players just in my server alone there, which is a great thing. When we look at guilds, there were guilds recruiting. There are always raids that seem to be happening, and it seems like there's even a good RP element in this game if you're really into that sort of thing. So the community seems to be really alive and active. The outlook is great because there is always support coming in for this game, being one of the larger ones, and so I think you can always find a really good community to be a part of. Hey, speaking of which, if you're looking to be a part of a good community, you can join our Discord at the link in the description. We would absolutely love to have you. We play all sorts of MMOs together, Lord of the Rings Online, World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and so you can jump in and find your community there with us. And then lastly, endgame research. There is lots of endgame to play in this game, which is good. There's the crafting endgame. There's very obviously the transmog endgame because you want your Jedi to look drippy. There's mount collection in this game. There's also, of course, raiding, great PvP systems. You're gonna have a lot to do at the end of this game. And so overall, it really does tick all of the boxes outside of that little bit of combat, maybe a little bit of a bloated game mechanic area. All right, so what's my verdict? Well, I would say that overall, this is a fantastic game to play. This is a wonderful, wonderful MMO to play, and if you have not played it yet, you really, really should give it a shot. I think that the UI is a little dated. I think that there's some bloat in this game, and I think the combat leaves a lot to be desired. But the story, the raids, and the PvP really do give you a reason to stay. It's a great game. It's a great game to sit back, put on earphones to, and just relax. So what's the rating? This game for me gets a 4 out of 5, meaning that I think that it's a phenomenal game. I think it's worth your subscription if you want to subscribe to it, but you can play so much of this game for free. There's so much content. The community is active. The gameplay story is beautiful. But the reason it doesn't get a 5 is really because 1, it's a little bit bloated to me, and then 2, the combat really doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. It's really not that creative, unfortunately. But hey, I still think it's a great game to play. I would give this a solid 4 out of 5. Well, friends, hey, that's what I have to say about Star Wars: The Old Republic. I've spent a lot of time putting this video together, so it would mean the world to me, especially if you made it to the end, to give this a like, give this a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more of it. Give me your thoughts, because this, of course, is the first one. If you liked this, if you'd like to see this kind of thing for other games, please feel free to let me know. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. But friends, as always, there are 2 things that I want you to know. You are more loved than you know, and you are so much more valuable than you realize. I hope you have an incredible day, friends, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to let you know a couple ways to connect with me. First of all, we got an awesome Discord in the description. We've got a Patreon if you'd like to give to the channel and help support more video creation. And I am live on Twitch quite often over at twitch.tv/brightlifecommunity. Would love to see you there. Always love interacting on those live video streams. But I hope you have an incredible day, my loved and valued friend. Have an awesome one.